Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the second installment of the PowerCards 101 video series. This time we're going to talk about card formatting as opposed to inline formatting that we talked about in the previous video. Card formatting lets you modify the way the title of the card looks, the sections that are associated with it, change colors and fonts, things like that. So let's jump right into our game here. And you can see I've got a macro up here that I'm going to run to create an example card. So let me select my wizard. You test the macro on this zombie. So what I really want to point out here is the three major sections of the card. At the top here with the two tokens and the text between them is the emote block of the card. And you can use that to convey a feeling of what's happening with the card. Right below that, where we have card name and the two subtitles, is the title block of the card, and we can customize the fonts here or the colors, things like that. And then below that is the card lines block, and this is what we saw in the first episode where we create tags and their corresponding values, and each one is output as a line. And you can see there's an alternating color scheme. It defaults to light gray and a darker gray for the card backgrounds for each line. So what I want to point out in the macro is what sections of the PowerCard command are creating each part of that card. So let's start with the Emote section at the top of the card. And this isn't present in all PowerCards. If you don't specify the Emote command, you won't see this at all. So what we have here is Emote, and then the text we want to have between the two icons if they are present. And we're using some notation here from the chat server, the @ symbol, and then in curly brackets. There are several things you can specify. Selected is whatever character you have highlighted. We're going to go over the chat server notation quite a bit more in a couple of videos. But for the moment, just know that that @ sign selected character name will be replaced with the name of the character that you have selected in the Roll20 interface. And similarly, you're prompted to choose a target, and @target character name will be replaced with the name of your target character. So in our card, in the emote section, we see Odug Utts, and I just had to generate random names for the characters, is what's being filled in by this selected character name. And then zombie is the name of the character we picked as the target. So the icons on either side, and I have consolidated a couple of lines here. You would normally see this like that, and it would work exactly the same way. I've shortened things up here to keep us within the editor box of the macro window. So this is two tags that are creating this effect. One is character ID or char ID, and the other is target list. If I remove the character ID, and I always just put in no in front of tags I want to get rid of, and run it, you'll see that I don't have an avatar here, and then that line is now displaying the character ID for my spellcaster. You'll notice we also don't have a target ID or a target token. You can't have a target token without having a character token for the emote line, but you can have a character line or a character icon without having a target icon. So character ID specifies the ID of the character that will appear on the left, and target list. And target list is used for some other things as well, but in this case target list is being used to specify the token ID of the token that will appear on the right side of the emote. But again, unless you have a character ID specified, you're not going to see the token for the target. And that's just built in the way things work in PowerCards. So that covers the emote section, and you can change the text in here. You can modify the font for the emote section if you want to. Let's go over that real quick. Let me just I'm going to pull up the wiki here. And I recommend referencing the wiki whenever you're looking for information about PowerCards, because there's a lot of actual good stuff in here. So the emotefont tag, you can see you have to specify a CSS font specification. So let's just copy this from the wiki and paste it in here. Doesn't matter whether it goes before or after the emote line. And when we run this, we should see a change to the font style for the emote. And I don't really see a change to the font style, although it's a little smaller. Let's change that to impact. I'll try that again. Alright, so you can see we definitely changed the font there. The font from script to whatever the default is changed a little bit, but not as obvious as changing it to impact. So we can set our font there. We can specify a font size. Anything you can do in a CSS tag for this text, we could do in this emote font tag. So let's drop that out of there for now, and let's talk about the title section. And these three tags are what create the title section of the card, which is this red block with card name, left subtitle, title, and right subtitle. And so that's obviously name and the name of the card, left sub for the left subtitle, right sub for the right subtitle. There's one thing here that we don't see, and that's if I hover over the title of the card, it says PowerCard sent by Kurt J. So that's the default. If you don't specify anything to be shown in that hover over, you will get just who sent you the power card. You can specify that, however, with the title tag. And so it's title, and is my hover over text. So now if we run this card again, attack the zombie. Now when we hover over the title of our card, we get whatever we put in the title tag. And just like the emote section, we can specify fonts and font sizes for the title. And if we take a look back in the wiki here, txcolor and title font can be specified. And let's go ahead and try that. And I'm just going to paste back in the line we had for emote font, and I'm going to change it to impact, since we know that looks different, and test that again. So now we've changed the font of the card of the title. You can see, back to the wiki, you can also change the subtitle font, and you can change the text color for the title and the background color for the title. So let's do that. Back to our game, and let's change the background color for the title block, and let's pick, what do we have here? Let's pick a nice purple, and the colors are specified with standard web hexadecimal color numbers. So we run that again, and we see we have a nice purple background instead of the red that's the default. We can specify a text color, and let's go with how about something like this, and run that again. Right, so it's very dark text, but you can see you can put whatever combination you want here, and it affects both the title and the subtitle, the text color. So keep that in mind. I don't believe, let me just check the wiki real quick. While you can specify the subtitle font separately, you can't specify the color of the subtitle font separately. So subtitle font, and let's pop back over to the game real quick, clear those out. And let's take a look at a couple of other cards that mostly impact, or tags that mostly impact the title. corners lets you specify the roundedness of the corners of the edge of the card. So you can see here it's slightly rounded. If we select corners as 0, we'll get square corners on the card. And if we set corners to a larger number, we'll get more rounded corners. I believe the default on corners is 5 or 10. Let's just try 10 real quick. So that's actually, the default must be 5 because that's more rounded than the default card. And the other is border. And again, I would suggest checking the wiki because I always mess up the border. It's again a CSS font tag or a CSS style tag. And let's go ahead and paste this in, and we'll make it a 5-pixel solid black border. All right, so it's much thicker than the default border that we have on the cards. All right, so that's pretty much the customization you can do to the title block. And finally, let's look at what you can do for the card lines. And each row of the card, each pair of rows, it will have the same formatting, and you specify it by erowbg for the background color. And let's go ahead and pick something here. How about we'll do a couple of different shades of red for our backgrounds. So erow background will be that darker red, and we'll go with a little bit lighter red for the odd rows. So E, even, row, background, O, odd, row, background. Since your first row is row 1, the odd row color will be used for the first row. So let's run that. And we see now we have a light red, dark red, light red, dark red. Similarly to the title area, you can specify a font. You can specify text colors. You can specify a body font. So let's do that as do that up here. We'll copy this tag and say body font. And that will change, body font will change the font for the text in the body of the card. At least that's what it's supposed to do. Let me make sure that it does. I can't really tell a difference there. Let's try a different. All right, so I can see it is slightly different, but not very. So we're going to go ahead and I do know you can specify fonts, but I'm not real familiar with what web fonts are available through Roll20. So we'll stick with colors for now. So you specify the text color on lines with orowtx and erowtx for odd and even row colors. And the default color for our line is black. Let's lighten these up a little bit and put in a grayish color here. And we'll do the same for our even rows. And let's test that one more time. Now you probably never want a card to actually look like this. These are a little hard to read, but you do have the option to set those formatting options. There's one tag that I call it kind of the oddball tag that doesn't fit with any of the 3 sections, and that's the whisper tag. If we specify whisper and then who we want to whisper to, we can have this card only be sent to specific players or the game master. So if I whisper GM this card, you'll see that it kind of indents a little bit. You get this yellow background, and it has a who sent you this whisper. There are a couple of different things you can use here. You can use self, you can use GM, you can use multiples, so self or GM comma self will send it to both the person who creates the card and the GM. If I do this in this case, I should get 2 copies of the card because Yes, because I am the GM in this game, and I'm also me. So that, that's useful if you want a secret card that none of the other players can see, or something the player has to contribute only to the DM. But it doesn't really fit in any of the other formatting sections because it's not related to those sections. So what I want to talk about now is the format handout and format tags. So I have all these different options for title colors and things like that. We're back to our red color on the title font. So let's put the purple title font, or purple background, back in. And that was this color. All right. And test that one more time. All right, so we have our purple background back. We have our alternating red and dark red / purple lines on the card. But if I have to include all this in every single card that I make, they're gonna get pretty long, and so we have a solution for that. If we hop over and we see we have several handouts that start with the text PowerCard Formats with a capital P, capital C, and capital F. And what we have in these is a set of rows that specify formatting options. So if we edit this, we can see I've got one already defined here called blues, but I can define a new one just by starting a new line in this handout and giving it a name. And it's followed by a colon, and then I can paste in any of the tags that I want to use in this formatting for this card. So I'm going to copy out a bunch of our format tags there. I've got some extras, but I'll just delete them and paste them into this box. So we want to keep the title font. We want to keep the background color. We can't specify a left sub in a format. We can't specify a right sub. We can specify their font information, but we can't specify the content of the left and the right sub. Erowbg, orowbg. One thing that's important, while line breaks are not important to PowerCards, they are important to these formats because a line break tells PowerCards that you've started the next format you're interested in defining. So on this format line, we have a name, and we have our title font tag, we have our bgcolor tag, we have our erowbg color tag, our orowbg color tag, and then the O and E row text color tags. So let's save this, and then back in our card, we can take all those different formatting options out, and we can replace them with format purples, which is the name we gave to our format line there. So let's go back and run that real quick. And you can see we kept all the same formatting even though all those have been removed from here. Now you did see we had the other format option blues in here. So if we change that and run it again, that's just another set of colors that I had already created in that handout. Now where I find this useful is if I'm creating some generic macros for any character to use, and this is especially true if you use PCM Helper, the 5e macro creator. All of the macros specify the format tag to include or to use a format named after the character name. So if we look at this character name, Odug, and I look through my formats, I have, not in there, PowerCard Formats, here we go. It'll batch together any handout that starts with PowerCard Formats. So that's nice that you can have formats for different things separated into different areas. So you can see here, Odug has his own format. So I could either include his name in all the cards that I format for him, or much more simply, I can say format at selected character name. So same notation we use down here in the emote, that will be replaced by the character name. So if I run this again, and go back to our chat window, run this one more time, attack the zombie, I see that Odug has a darker purple background, and he uses the default text here. And what I usually do with that is, let me just show you, because I have a couple other characters on this game. I have a warrior here, cats at a rhinoceros. So this character has a darker blue background, and finally this character is all the same macro, has a brighter purple background. What I usually do, so let me bring up the handout from my live game that I copied over to this game, is when someone joins a Roll20 game, Roll20 assigns them a color. So down here we see that my Kurt J player ID has this maroon color. So what I do is find the color that's assigned to each of my players after they create their character, and then I create their format handout and use the background color that Roll20 is assigning. That way it's really easy to see, okay, well, all right, our warlock here, his cards are all going to have a yellow title background, and our druid, her cards are always going to have whatever this color turns out to be. And that way it's easy to distinguish who's doing what with their power cards. And I believe that is everything I wanted to cover in this section. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and I will see you in part 3, where we're going to talk about roles, role IDs, and conditional statements. And I will see you in the next one.